Welcome, my name is Catherine Berlinger, and in this second video we're going to focus on content words and how they're differentiated from function words. Please make sure you have a pen or pencil with you and you're ready to listen to me say some phrases in English and to repeat them back to me. Please listen to me say the following sentence 6 times and write down what you hear. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. Did you write down a 9-word sentence in the present perfect about a student? The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. We're going to examine which words in this sentence are content words. We're going to examine the 2 rules that we apply to this sentence to make it sound the way it sounds when I say it, and that is to emphasize the content words and de-emphasize the function. The first rule asks us to emphasize the content words so that they become more prominent, so it's important to know what content words are. Content words include main verbs. So if I were to say a sentence with the word mix or work or in danger, those words would have a stress in my sentence. But I wouldn't normally stress auxiliary verbs or modals or weak verbs. For example, I wouldn't say, I am a professor, unless I wanted to sound rather proud of myself, or I have a house, unless I was thinking, how about you, do you? Those words are generally reduced. Nouns, I will stress common and proper nouns, but not pronouns. For example, if I say Jason, cat, book, in my sentence those will have stresses. Adjectives are also stressed in normal speech. I would say it's very useful, with an emphasis on the useful. Most adverbs, quickly, smoothly, I really want to go, those would receive emphasis. Anytime I make a modal or an auxiliary negative, it becomes emphasized, so it's clear to the listener that I'm not going to do something. I shouldn't go. Demonstratives, this apple, that apple, and the WH questions, but often less strongly than other content words. We're talking about a continuum here between really strong content words and function words. So some of the characteristics of content words are that they are always stressed on one syllable. If it's a one-syllable word such as cat, then that would automatically be the stress. If it's something like cattle, you would have to know that it's the first syllable and not the second. They have a clear meaning that can be understood fully by itself. If I say dog or jump or quickly or never, you know what I mean without any other words being added in. They carry the primary communicative force of an utterance. You have to hear them in order to know my meaning. Dictionaries can assign a meaning to content words that's usually fairly clear, although there are differences between the denotation, the dictionary, and the connotation that particular groups might feel about a word. They're an open class. We can certainly add more of them to the language freely. And they are almost always 3 or more graphemes or letters. I think ox is the only exception that has only 2 letters and is still a content word. They can be the sole constituent of a phrase. For example, I can say John, and that would be my whole subject phrase. And you have to have a content word in every phrase. They're the first class of words children acquire, words like bottle and mummy. And they have other terms, lexical words, lexical morphemes, etc. in some textbooks. Now the second rule asked us to make the grammar information or the function words less significant in comparison to the words that deliver meaning. So what are these function words that are reduced in order to let the content words shine? Pronouns. For example, if I say, it was okay, you must know what it was, otherwise I wouldn't be using a pronoun, so there's no need for me to emphasize it. Same thing if I say, he'll be able to go, I don't need to say he'll be able to go because we probably already talked about the person who we are referring to. Prepositions in, on, at, for, and to are generally reduced significantly. So I'll say, for example, it's on the table, it's on the table, it's on, it's on, it's on. The on is very, very small. Articles are generally reduced. Conjunctions, auxiliary verbs, most modals, and the weak verbs to be, to get, to do, and to have are generally reduced in normal speech. Function words are a really interesting category of words. They're only stressed when we need to clear up communication. For example, if I told you you could have a cookie and I saw you grab 5 of them, I might say, wow, I said a cookie, in which case I'm emphasizing the function word so that it's clear that something was not as expected. They have little lexical meaning, words like in, on, am, should, and a. You need the words around them to get a meaning. They express grammatical relationships. They can also specify the attitude or mood in terms of words like should or would or could. They signal relationships in the structure of the sentences, and they are the glue that holds the utterances together, and they're necessary to sound correct. Dictionaries can only describe the general use of function words. They don't usually assign an actual meaning to them. They're a closed class, we're not adding any more, and they're often very short, but can be a little bit longer. They're prone to contraction. They can't carry a phrase. You don't have a intonation curve on a phrase that consists only of I. You need to have more words there. They often are not present in preschool speech, and they're lost in some patients with asphasia. And they have other terms such as grammatical words, grammatical morphemes, function morphemes in some textbooks. So if you look back at our example, the student tried the IELTS test 5 times, we can see that we have there student, try, IELTS, test 5 and times as content words in the sentence. They meet the criteria that we discussed, and they will have a stress on the stress syllable of each one. And we will reduce the other words that we have there. The definite article the auxiliary verb has, the ed past tense marker will be small, and the other definite article will also be reduced. Listen to me say the sentence again 5 times, and listen to how my voice peaks on the stress syllable of the content words and goes down on the function words. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. And you can see I've given you the IPA transcription so that you can see how that is how I normally say that particular sentence. We have 4 phrases in this sentence, and each one of those phrases is necessary for delivering meaning. The first phrase, the student, tells us who. The second phrase is tried, tells us what they've done. The third phrase tells us what it is they have tried, the IELTS test. And the last one, how many times? 5 times. The student has tried the IELTS test 5 times. So in conclusion, we can see that the content words always have a stress syllable, and that stress syllable always has a vowel that's fully formed, that are prototypical exemplars of their vowel sound. And that syllable with the stress in the content word is longer and louder than the unstressed syllables in the function words that are around it. And so we have this contrast. I'll say, the student has tried the IELTS test 5 times, and the function words are reduced, the content words are made stronger.